Hi, this is Dr. Gary Sprouse, the Less Stressed Doc, and I want to welcome you to the Happiness Highway podcast. And this is a place where I'm trying to get you guys to get to your happy place where you can spend all the rest of your life there. And we just have to figure out where it is so we can get there and stay there.
Drive on Happiness Highway, a beaming smile on my face.
And today I have my wife, who's still on Zoom because she's getting better, but she still has COVID. And I have a guest today, and her name is Jan Roseberry. So welcome, Jan. Thank you for coming.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Jan, you're in St. Louis, right?
Yeah, it's a little rainy day here.
The wonder of Zoom. Here we are. We get to talk to people from St. Louis as if they're right here in front of us. So Jan sent me her bio, and so she's had a 40-year career doing ultrasound, right? And she did ultrasound on women that were having babies. And she's been doing also ultrasound for people who had cancer, uterine cancer and stuff like that. So she did this for 40 years. As a doctor, right, I'm on the other end of this. I'm ordering the test. So it's fascinating to listen to someone who actually is doing the test. And one of the things that you told me was that it actually caused a lot of physical damage to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of repetitive motion injuries, and physicians that, in their office, they don't know what the perfect setup is going to be. I think they're finding out now, many years down the road, but you still have to get the images. It's not like a CT scan where the images just pop up.
Yeah, no, right? So I hadn't really thought about it as the doctor. Now I'm just ordering the test, but yeah, you're like leaning over and putting yourself in these weird positions. But so anyway, she retired as an ultrasonographer, and now she's decided that she started her own company. And it's been growing over the last 3.5 years. So tell me a little bit about your company.
It kind of took off organically. It was something that I found that helped me. Most people come to me because they want to get to a healthy weight. And that's how I got involved in it, because during COVID, like a lot of people, stress, a few pounds came on, right?
Yeah.
I found something that really helped me change my health trajectory, and so I thought, okay, I've got to help other people because I know other people are struggling out there. Yes, we do help reduce fat on the body and get healthier, but the biggest part of this is, how do you keep it off? Why did you end up that way in the first place? And so that's what my goal is, to help people become more aware. And your book fits right into this because stress is everywhere, especially during an election season, right?
Yeah, for sure. So Terry, tell the audience how you got to meet Jan, and then how I got to meet her.
Jan and I went to the same high school. We graduated together from Lindbergh High School in St. Louis, Missouri. And Jan and I have been Facebook friends, 2 years ago? She posted on Facebook, who wants to lose, and I'm going to pick a random number, I think it was 20 pounds, before Christmas without dieting or exercise. And I'm like, pick me. Because once menopause hit and pandemic and all sorts of other, life things, weight was just gradually creeping on me, 1 pound at a time. And no matter what I did, it wasn't going anywhere. And I thought, you know what? I have nothing to lose. But actually I did. I had like 35 pounds to lose. In my journey, my success journey, then Gary looked at me and went, hey, I want to do that too. So we have both been very successful in losing between 30 and 35 pounds and keeping it off. 2 years this fall that I've kept it off.
So the key is we've been keeping it off, but we're not feeling deprived. That's the real key, right? And so that's what makes it easy. When you don't feel deprived, then you're just living your life, and that makes it easy. But Jan, she's been coaching us for a couple years, but she's also read like a crazy amount of books. I like the way she incorporates what she's reading into her coaching.
Over the past 3.5, 4 years, yes, my program helped me physically get healthy, but really the program that I coach is kind of a self-development, personal development program with weight loss attached. And what my goal for my clients is to help them awaken, to help them become curious. Because most people are just stuck and they don't know where to turn and they can't see the light and they are down. And so if I can create a little bit of momentum for them, then it's like, what else can I learn? How can I become better in this area and this area? And before you know it, they're showing up better in their families, at work, in their communities, and The snowball effect is just phenomenal. But some of my favorite books, Gary and I, our conversations would always go to books, an excellent back and forth. And so we would both come off of our calls with a list of books that we must read.
Jan was saying that her program is about self-development and self-awareness with weight loss attached to it. I'm a perfect example of that. Jan has helped me discover why I was putting weight on. Previously, I would not have classified myself as an emotional eater, because usually that's attributed to being sad or being angry. You get angry with somebody and you shove down a pint of ice cream. That wasn't me. But if you put loneliness or isolation or boredom as an emotion, well, yeah, then I was an emotional eater, because before the pandemic, I was doing Gary's medical billing. And that was me at home by myself with the dog and the refrigerator. I'd be home alone all day. And then the pandemic hit, and then we all were in social isolation. And that's when the pounds really started to creep on. And I was just thinking, oh, it's just age, it's menopause, whatever. But when Jan was able to highlight the fact that I was an emotional eater, then I could work on my emotions. And that's what curbed me putting the weight back on. You can lose weight by just stop eating. That's not a long-term solution. You got to fix what's up here.
Well, and with you, Terry, what was so unique to you, your situation, you had a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
For many people, going and working out is their stress release and their centering, and it carries them through the day. You couldn't do that. I recently couldn't do that. I, have had a couple hip replacements. And so you've got to become aware of what you're doing and be able to treat yourself healthfully regardless of what's coming at you. That's my goal, is for my clients to have emotional resilience. You can't have that just right off the bat. You have to develop the skills. And for me, a lot of the reading has really helped me to develop that. The more you know, the more tools you have, you'll find what works for you.
Tell me a little bit more about this emotional resilience.
Emotional resilience, life is going to happen to all of us. We are all going to have things that ruin our day. Maybe somebody gets ill. Maybe you get ill. Maybe somebody runs into your car, or you get fired from your job. We can't control what life is going to dish at us. It's going to keep life in us. All we can control is what, Gary?
You can't always control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it.
Right. It's how we respond. It is so important to be able to center yourself. In my opinion, you have to really know what matters most to you. Kind of have that solidified. Most people don't know. They're just doing the Groundhog Day thing. Get up, go to work, but figure out what really matters most to you, align your day that way, and keep that right there. As I said, life is going to knock all of us around. And it's important to feel those things, feel the emotions, sadness, or whatever it is that you need to go through. Take a deep breath and say, all right, how can I learn from this? How can I show up the best? And that's really what our program is about. It like hurts my heart when people think it's all about getting to a number on the scale and then, looking good in a bikini. I'm like, oh, that'll last this long if that's all you're doing,
When you were talking about emotional resilience, one of the things that I talk about is what an emotion is. And what I realized, I went to a couple of lectures, and one of the guys had written the best-selling book on depression. And when I asked it after the lecture, he used the word emotion 20 times during the lecture. And I came up to him after and said, tell me what an emotion is. And he really didn't have an answer. And what was more important was he didn't even know he didn't have the answer. So I started looking back and saying, what is an emotion? Because if you don't know what an emotion is, then how are you going to be able to have resilience, or how are you going to be able to control it? So one of the things that I found with emotion is that it's pre-programmed. It's already stuck in our brain, and it's a push button. I liken it to a radio in our car where you have preset stations and you just push the button and you go, hey, I want to listen to rock, and you hit the button. Hey, I want to listen to country, and you hit the different button. And so our emotions are like that. They're already set up, and they are there to help us survive. When the fear button goes off, I don't want to have to figure out, hey, what was that rustling in the bush? Is that a tiger or is it a lion? I don't even want to know. I'm just running away, right? Because my body's going, run away. Later on, I'll figure out whether it was a lion or a tiger or whether it was a bunny rabbit. I don't know, right? So when you understand that that's where our emotions are coming from, then you can go, oh, well, now I can slow this down and now I can learn how to get more emotional resilience, which I agree, because emotions drive a lot of stresses. It's like fear, it was one of the emotions that drives stresses. And Terry, you were talking about boredom. People don't understand how bad boredom is. Boredom is bad, 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 right? It's really annoying feeling, and people do lots of things to make it go away, and eating is just one of them.
Eating's a big one, a big one. You know, the other things are alcohol or worse, you know. Emotional resilience, as you were just talking about, Gary, you have to understand, what is that emotion even about? Terry and I went to high school a few years ago. So our emotions are usually based on the stories that we're telling ourselves. And a lot of times those stories aren't even reality. And so that's what we're reacting to, is the story that we're telling ourselves about whatever happened, whatever your sister just said to you or whatever. So if you can just stop and say, wait a minute, that is most likely just a story that I'm telling myself. So that person in your mind that's telling you these stories, you can give her or him a name and say, you know what, Lois, no, I am not listening to your stories right now. What is really happening? But you don't just get to that point overnight. I sure didn't. But, you know, Gary and I have talked about several books. The Four Agreements is one of my very, very favorite books. I'm pretty sure I've read it or listened to it on Audible 10 times by now, because the stories that we tell ourselves and the emotions attached to that, it all goes back to our childhood. And we have put into place coping mechanisms to deal with those emotions. As kids, we didn't know how to deal with those emotions, so we figured out a way to survive. I mean, I did. Do you guys relate to that?
Yeah, absolutely. No. So when you talk about stories, what I've also seen is people talk about a movie, and that there's a movie reel in our head. It's like on a loop, and it just keeps running and running and running. And I think what you're trying to say is somewhere along the line, you have to examine the movie reel and go, hey, was that really accurate? Or is there another perception? I know in my own life, I had this thing happen with my dad. I was in New Orleans, some bad stuff happened. And as a kid, I looked at it a certain way. And that was the story that I would tell people. But as an adult and as a father, I'm like, wait, what? I'm looking at the story going, that's an insane story. And it like changed the reel, changed the movie in a whole different way, so I could see it in a whole different light. And it changed how I thought about myself. But it also gave me that example of like, hey, you know what? You can change the reel, even though you was started as a kid, you can change it as an adult. And that becomes critical, because one of the things that I see, you said this earlier, that people get stuck and they don't think they can change. And like, no, you can. It's really possible.
It is. And it's such a freeing feeling. I mean, sadly, I was 58 before I felt free, to where I could leave the house, no makeup, glasses on, and like end up dancing at the Sappington house in the middle, like two people out on the dance floor.
Wait, you have to, wait. What does that mean? What is the Sappington house? That must be a St. Louis thing. I don't know, right?
A little local place. The thing is I used to be so like tight, and I couldn't just like be free. And I'm like, I love who I am now. I feel free. I felt healthy, but I felt emotionally free to just be joyful. That's freedom.
That's one of the runes in the happy place, is feeling joy. It's awesome, right? Yeah. So Terry, you and I go out and dance. We might be the only one out on the floor. I don't know, were you like that before you met me, or is that just something I brought to the table?
Oh no, you brought that to the table.
We're like the icebreakers. And after we start dancing, then you'll see a whole bunch of other people come up.
I mean, I used to be just painfully shy. So for me, that's a big deal. People took photos and stuff, and they're not the best photos, but I'm like, I love that day. I love that day because I remember how free I felt and continue to feel. And I was gonna say, you know, I went through a breathing exercise with someone, and that tool has been a good tool for me, because if you or constantly just walking around your house, breathing very shallowly and never taking deep breaths, that really can affect your whole body.
Oh, absolutely. Jan, you know this, Gary knows this, but I was previously widowed, and my grief counselor pinpointed my breathing. And she suggested that I take up singing for that exact deep breathing. You take a big gulp of air and you'll let it out slowly because you're sustaining notes. And because of that, I started singing karaoke, and Gary sings karaoke. So that's one of the things that we do together. But that started out as a breathing exercise.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. There's a book called Heart Math and a whole process that you can do, but you can actually like put this little sensor on your earlobe and watch your heart rate, and you can bring your breathing into coherence. When you picture your happy place, for me, it's mountains of Colorado. You want to have nice, steady, long, deep breaths. And when you do that, just through your breathing, you can bring your heart rate into coherence. And the clarity, all those stories that you're telling yourself, they kind of fade away and you have moments of clarity.
Physiologically, it turns out when you breathe, when you take a deep breath, it actually sets off, here's the word, parasympathetic, which is the opposite of adrenaline. So deep breathing is actually really relaxing. So the deeper you're breathing, the more relaxed you're gonna feel, which is a good thing, which is why most exercises include some kind of breath work, some kind of area where you're deep breathing, some way to do that, because it definitely makes a physiological difference in your body. I'm trying to fix everybody right away, right? So like waiting for people to come to me, I'm like, oh, right? How does a person get to you? How do you interact with them in the initial visit?
Most of my clients come to me now through referrals. I do use social media quite a bit to kind of get my word out there. I go to doctors' offices and, like orthopedic doctors. There's a ton of people that need knee surgery, but they're too obese. They're a risk. And so their doctor says, well, lose 50 pounds and come back and see me. I talk to those kind of physicians. I talk to endocrinologists, infertility doctors, physical therapists, because as far as like infertility doctors, so many women are just metabolically unhealthy. And if we could just get a little bit of that weight off of them, they would start ovulating again on their own without being injected full of medications and going through very expensive procedures. Actually, my physical therapist is sending me clients now because people like you, Terry, and like myself. I mean, I eat healthy, but being sedentary, sometimes it just, you get a little sarcopenia, your muscles start wasting away. And for many people, weight starts coming on, but they can't exercise it off. That doesn't work anyway. That's good for mental health and it's good for overall health and muscle health. But the way to get the fat off is through nutrition. So social media, doctors refer to me, clients like you two and other clients are like, wow, I found something that works. Talk to my coach. And then the first conversation I usually have with them is just really to get to know them personally. What's their life like? How much stress do they have in their life? Do they sleep? Do they drink any water? Many people don't. And then we just kind of figure out what their goals are. And I have many, many different plans that I can help people with. A lot of people these days are wanting the GLP-1. And I can help those people too, because some people do legit need to reduce the food noise. But what they don't know is they need to support their muscle health, because those people are losing like 20 to 50% of their muscle mass when they're losing this weight. And I don't want that to happen. I'm on Facebook. I'm listed as Jan Newman Roseberry. And on Instagram, I'm healthcoach_Jan.
So do you guys get that? If you want to get in touch with Jan and get some help, she's in St. Louis, but guess what? With internet and telephones, it's okay. So my wife and I have been using her as a coach for the last 2 years, and it's worked out just fine, right? So give her a call if you need some help, because she is awesome. She's this very upbeat, enthusiastic, well-read, smart lady. So she's gonna motivate you with success, not like beat you over the head with a stick, right? So I wanted to thank you for coming on the show. And you know what, Terry and I could spend the next hour or two talking even more, but we gotta go. So I wanna thank you again for coming on the show, and maybe we can have you back on again some other time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
All right, so thanks for coming to the show, the Happiness Highway podcast, where we spend some time trying to get to our happy place. So do me a favor, go on Facebook and like us, go on YouTube and subscribe. Give me some ideas of what kind of shows you want to hear about. I'd be fascinated. And if you get a chance, go find my book, Highway to Your Happy Place, A Roadmap to Less Stress. It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes & Noble. And oh yeah, my new book just came out, Mindset Matters. It's right here. And I get to be a co-author with this amazing guy, Jack Canfield. And we talk about how changing your mindset can change how you view your life. It's awesome. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you back on the next show.
Drive